Now welcome to another lightning response video, where this time we got a question that was sort of a response or a follow-up question to the video I did the other day about some comments that George R.R. Martin had made about the rise of anti-fans in fandoms, and it comes to us from John Smith, who asked, "Hey Thor, I know you aren't likely to see this, but I want to say it anyway. Your argument that most fans who criticize and want to see Star Wars and other things they love fail because they actually care about it and love it that much is something I do agree with. However, I do also agree with what George R.R. Martin said to an extent, because there are some truly hateful channels on YouTube and other places whose hatred goes beyond what should be considered acceptable. And what I tend to notice about these channels is exactly what you said, that the more they hate on Star Wars and similar franchises, the more views and money they make. And I just think there's something deplorable about the fact that these people actively feed on and encourage burning, passionate, and basically irrational hatred in people for their own gain, because that makes them no different than the people they claim to be fighting. They act all outraged, will do anything to criticize these franchises, and even when they do something good, they'll still find a way to bash them and never give them any credit. So while they line their own pockets, all they're doing is making this stuff even worse when it should be their job to try and help unify fans of these franchises. Now I know that most would say that these people aren't real fans because they're only promoting hatred for financial gain, but it's what they're doing to real fans in the process. Because I've seen firsthand what some of these despicable channels do to good people who just wanted to vent their anger and got consumed by the hatred they were promoting. These channels are almost like a literal manifestation of the dark side of the Force. And I just want to hear your opinion on this. What do you think of YouTube channels that only exploit people's anger at franchises like Star Wars and encourage them to be as hateful as possible, all for financial gain? Okay, so I think this is a rather tricky topic, because on the one hand, I am not a fan of censorship, and I do believe people have the right to complain about whatever they want to complain about, however they want to complain about it, more or less. Because I also do think there are certainly lines that shouldn't be crossed when it comes to something like complaining about Star Wars on the internet. Not because they should be illegal or policed or shut down by YouTube or anything quite like that, but for more ethical, if not just common sense reasoning. I don't know that there's ever a good reason to become truly hateful towards another person because they made a really bad movie, or as a fan they like a movie that you didn't like, or vice versa. I mean, as much as I love Star Wars, as passionate as I can be about it, and as much as it bugs me to see it handled poorly by modern day Lucasfilm and Disney, I don't know that it's something you should ever get that angry about, to the point where you're saying genuinely cruel things about other people or to other people. Though, sure, sometimes the ones who are making the bad movies or the fans defending them, they are the ones doing the attacking or the provoking or being really hateful towards the haters, ironically enough. As I've talked about before, I've had some people say the darndest things to me for criticizing Star Wars, including threats and wishing harm upon me, or even worse. But pretty much no matter what, when it comes to that sort of thing, at least arguing about movies online, I'm not a fan of justifying retaliation by saying they're the ones who started it. To me, that is child logic. Furthermore, here, people do have the choice to watch those who are being negative. No one can force you to sit down and watch a YouTube video bashing Star Wars. And by the fact that they do get so many clicks and views, it says people want to watch them. And they should have that option, even if you want to argue all they're doing, all these videos are doing, is getting people more and more angry or keeping them angry and furthering the fan divide and making everything just worse. Now, all that said, I think perhaps one of the biggest issues here is that there is you could call it, conflict of interest when you make money off complaining about a problem existing. That being, why would you ever actually want to see the problem fixed if you're profiting off of it? It's kind of like the old saying that there's only money in the treatment and not the cure. The one doing the complaining about something being broken has a vested interest in it staying broken and no actual interest or desire to see it fixed. Especially if it being broken doesn't really impact them personally, or if you don't care as much as you maybe claim to care about whatever you're complaining about. For example, if you're making a ton of money off Star Wars being terrible, off making videos about it, and you're not really the biggest Star Wars fan out there, when it boils right down to it, it's something that sure you like and you enjoy well enough, but it's not actually something you're that into, and you only got into it as much as you have because it's bad now and you saw the opportunity or potential to kind of exploit that, not because you ever really loved it that much in the first place. Well then, again, do you really want it to get better despite constantly complaining about it and saying you want to see it get better? Or do you instead have that vested interest in it staying bad and keeping people mad so they keep watching your videos and you keep making money? Ask yourself this question. If, say, tomorrow Kathleen Kennedy was fired and in short order suddenly Star Wars got their stuff together and it was constantly putting out great shows and movies and virtually everyone agreed it had been saved and was now the best handled franchise in the world, would the channels that have been constantly talking about how bad it was, would they suddenly then make videos about how good it now is? Instead of every other video they do saying Star Wars is dead on the thumbnail or in the title, would they now say Star Wars is saved or Star Wars is back in dozens upon dozens of videos? Or would they simply move on to the next thing to complain about? Would it be the next battle in the culture war for them? Which is really what this boils down to for most of these channels, I think. Most of them who do this sort of thing, and for those who watch them as well. They see themselves and sell themselves as warriors on the front lines of a battle for the very soul of our society. For them, it hasn't actually been about Star Wars in a long time. It's been about stopping Disney and or others like them who want to use entertainment to push their agenda. And I don't think anyone, myself included, would try to argue that there isn't a culture war in progress. Hell, there is always a culture war in progress to some degree, right? There is always going to be a battle for the hearts and minds and habits of the people, one that is waged via entertainment and other means. But considering the new heights many forms of entertainment have reached in recent years, thanks to the internet and social media, where you can literally talk about these things and consume them in some respect 24/7, where they have become something more akin to a full-time hobby shared in real time by millions upon millions of people, rather than just something you watch from time to time and ponder quietly to yourself because there's no internet, or maybe discuss only with the people around you. Well, keeping that in mind, considering what fandoms have sort of morphed into thanks to social media, that they have become almost like these large collectives or even hive minds, I think you could argue, there's then more incentive than ever from individuals to corporations to whatever it might be to use these things some people care so much about and have become a part of to exert influence over them. And yeah, I know I probably sound like I'm treading into conspiracy theory territory here, but if you don't think clever and or potentially nefarious people on both sides of this culture war haven't recognized just how important some of these things are to people, how important something like Star Wars can be to someone, that there aren't those out there constantly thinking of ways to use that to their advantage to do anything from push an agenda to just make some money, then to be very blunt here, there's a really good chance you're an unwitting foot soldier in that war, or you're just someone who wants to watch, enjoy, and talk about Star Wars free of all the other BS that it's been entangled in. You're someone like me who hates the battleground it's become. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and weigh in on this one. Tell me what you think. Or you can always ask a question for a future lightning response video. All you gotta do is start your comment off with "Hey Thor" and then ask away. But whatever you choose to do, leave those comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.